everyone, welcome back to Heartbeat Narratives. My name is Molly and I'm your host. And tonight is a very special night, a very special episode because I finally get to interview my friend Cindy. You may recognize her voice from the Beyonce episode from when we were in Houston earlier this year. Cindy is not only my friend, but she's my neighbor. She's a powerhouse, has this beautiful life force energy and just this dynamic personality with all of her interests and her talents and her gifts. And so today we're going to dive into one of her things that brings her joy. So mahalo, Cindy, for coming.
Oh, Molly, you sure know how to make a girl blush. I am so honored to be here tonight. Yeah,
you have been on my dream guest list for a while because I feel like you have such a awesome balance between your feminine side with, like you love Beyonce and you dress up really cute and you do your hair and you get your nails done. But then there's this other very hardcore side of you where you've worked in very masculine jobs and you have this deep love of the ocean and recreation. And we'll get into all of that, but for tonight, I wanted to just kick it off with, where is home for you?
Home is where the heart is, and right now it's been Honolulu for the past 11 years. Where I'm from is a different place, and that's also where my heart is, and that's in the Pacific Northwest in Canada, Vancouver, BC, and Victoria, Vancouver Island.
So coastal places.
Yeah, on the Pacific coast, very different climates.
What brought you to Hawaii in the first place? Like, how did you end up this far into the Pacific?
That's a good question. My goodness, I think I traveled the world a little bit like a coconut. I started off in Victoria and ended up in Indonesia at a friend's wedding and stayed for 2 years. And then I followed a boy to San Francisco for a little bit and eventually followed an opportunity to come out here to Oʻahu when a friend asked me, hey, do you want to build my dad's house on the North Shore? I was like, yeah, I do. I've never done that before. Let's give it a go. So I landed on the North Shore of Oʻahu in the summertime, and it was glorious. And right smack dab in the middle of the 7-mile miracle of surfing. And I was obsessed with surfing. Surfing, my first wave in Canada, that's how I learned how to surf, wearing 6'5" mil wetsuit with booties and a hood and brain freeze every time you duck dive. And that's actually what brought me to Indonesia and Bali and Sumba, and of course to San Francisco and California. But landing in the mecca of where surfing began on Oʻahu and seeing the North Shore, I was like, I think I need to stay and see about a winter season here. And I've been here since.
I'm so glad that you stayed.
Yeah, me too.
And when I think of you as a water woman. It's like the ocean is part of you, and it's this like healing force, but also it's this very powerful element that I think resonates very deeply with who I know you to be. Where did you fall in love with the ocean in the first place? Like, what point in your life?
Oh my gosh, when I was so young. I mean, I lived in Vancouver, and yes, granted, it's in the city, but we had access to the beaches, and I was always in Spanish Banks and the mud flats, and any tidal pool I'd be in it. Eventually, when I learned to surf in Vancouver Island, I spent a lot of time skipping class in university to be on the coast and just be in the water. And my summer job in university was a whale watching guide, and I was the naturalist on the yachts and captained the Zodiacs, and it was my favorite job of all time. Like hanging out with the orcas and the humpbacks and the gray whales and the seals and the sea lions, and it gave me life.
You're like a mermaid.
It was a pretty cool mermaid out there. We'll try our best, yeah.
I remember you sharing at some point that there was a very special aquarium that you went to when you were younger. I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, the Vancouver Aquarium. It's been such an institution there, and admittedly controversial, right? When I grew up, they had orca whales in a very confined space, and dolphins and beluga whales. But it just sparked my love of the ocean and fascination of these creatures and these incredible animals. And so going to it when I was a kid, and come high school, there was a time when it was really hard for me as a teenager, and I ended up dropping out of school, and I was very depressed, and I didn't get out of bed. But the only thing that got me out was this volunteer gig that I had landed at the Vancouver Aquarium, where I got to be with the animals and the sea otters, and they saved my life. And so I feel like I carried this debt of servitude and honor for the rest of my life to the natural world, and especially the water world.
I feel like those special places, they're almost like touch points in our lives that end up, when you look back, were those pillars that you really needed at those moments that kind of like bolstered you up. I'm glad that you had that space when you were so young as a teenager.
Yeah, me too. I think the oneness and interconnectedness of understanding what ecology means and how it means to be connected to everything, and what we eat, what we do, all of our industrial activities affect all of these creatures, and the health of these systems ultimately affect the health of humans and our relationships and our ability to thrive and survive.
Yeah, we are part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, we can't deny it. Yeah.
So I would love to ask you, Cindy, what makes your heart beat? What brings you joy?
Well, right off the top of my mind is being able to connect to these systems in a very intimate and natural way, which is to nourish our bodies and to experience it. And spearfishing and freediving is one way to do that, because you can source your food, catch it, clean it, bring it to friends. You can do it with friends and be able to nourish and feed your friends and family is just such an honor and a real part of just being human. It's this most intrinsic need, and also brings us all together culturally and contributes to our emotional and physical health.
I love that we're saying this following the best fish tacos I've ever eaten in my life that you shared with me. And it was like ocean to plate.
It was my absolute pleasure. It was so much fun. I'm so glad you got to join and help prep. I think that's the beauty of life, and that's the meaning of life, is to be able to commune and feed and break bread, appreciate all the ingredients that came from this earth.
So how did you get into spearfishing in the first place? I know that there's a story here.
Oh my goodness. I was obsessed with surfing, right? So it dictated where I lived, where I vacationed, who I dated. And I always pursued surfing in a very masculine way. It's very assertive. You have to dominate the peak. It's like ultimately self-serving, right? Only one person can be in a wave safely. So it came to me during a period of time that was really difficult. I was going through a divorce and just a domino of stressful things, big stresses in life. And I was really broken down to understand, okay, what do you want in this life? How do you want to do this? And spearfishing has always been on a bucket list item, and I've just made a very simple, what do you want to do this year? And one was to catch a fish and cook it and share it with friends. And I felt like it was a very attainable goal. So I did that.
And then you were hooked?
And then I was hooked. Good one.
I needed one pun.
That was really good. And then I was hooked. Yeah.
So that was a few years ago.
Yeah, only a few years ago. And I made it a goal. It was easy to kind of research, well, how do I want to do this? I've always been in the water. I've done the glorified snorkeling thing. But understanding that spearfishing is actually hunting and you have to be down there for longer periods of time, I wanted to be able to do it safely. And that's one of the things that I value of my masculine mind, is to be very analytical and logical and safe. So I gathered some friends together. We got a private lesson to free dive, learned all the safety protocols, learned all the signs and symptoms of hypoxia, and I felt much better going into the ocean after that, and fortunately have some friends who've been doing it for a while, and so I just was like, hey, can I come tag along? They're like, yeah, you know what you're doing? I'm like, no, not really, but I'm comfortable in the water. And yeah, my friend David, he's my nearest and dearest guru.
Shout out, David.
Shout out, David. He and I had a lot of time together. There was a time when I was not working because I was going through some hard things, and it just became this balm and a really lovely focus on how to be present and just completely be in the water.
Do you have a memorable moment where you're like, this story will stay with me forever because it represents something to you? Because I feel like when you start to click into that joy mindset, there are these like pivotal moments where they just stick with you. What is one of those for you?
So the first story that comes to mind, we were doing a shore dive on the east side somewhere. And it was a glorious day, just crystal clear blue waters, and the sky was glorious, and the sun was dappling through. And I hadn't really been hunting. I was just really enjoying being underwater and mermaiding around and just seeing all these groups of moo. And they were out and being quite gregarious, which they're not usually. They're very smart fish and they know exactly what you are. And so we were about to wrap it up, and I took one more dive and ended up having a conversation with one. And they move very differently than other fish. They kind of hover. My friend David calls them hovercrafts. You don't see their fins moving, you don't see their bodies moving, but they just hover. And I started hovering with it, and it started coming closer to me, and then I took a shot and I hit it. And that ended up being my first moo, which is actually one of the hardest fish to catch because they're so smart and so elusive. And so I was really happy and stoked, and my friend Taylor, shout out Taylor, was super happy for me too. And so anyway, we were wrapping it up, and put the fish on the float and started swimming towards shore. And in the distance I could see two gray beings in the water that weren't humans. And I was like, oh no, are those sharks? But then they went through this coral tunnel. I'm like, oh no, they're not sharks. Oh, they're seals, cute. Oh no, they're two monk seals. And they saw me, and they looked at the fish on the float, and they looked at me again. I was like, oh no. And something in me just kind of clicked. I was like, no, I worked really hard for this move. This is my first move ever. This is my dinner. I'm going to protect this fish with my life. And so my friend Taylor came back, and these seals were larger than us. They're 6-7 feet long, two of them. And we know that they're quite aggressive. And so we didn't know how aggressive they would be. So they just circled around us for a bit. And Taylor's like, okay, we got to get out of here. So he started pulling the float. I was circling around the float, and they were circling around me. We turned our guns around because we didn't want to be the ones to accidentally poke or spear the most endangered seal in the world. So they came super close, came within a foot of the butt of my gun. But this thing inside of me was like, I'm a predator too. This is my dinner, so I'm going to fight for it. And also the naturalist in the back of my mind was like, well, you don't want to give up your fish, because then it sets a precedent and they'll harass other divers. So thus began a 45-minute swim back to shore because we had wandered so far, and they followed us all the way back, the entire way into 2 feet of water until we stood up. And that's when they gave up. And so that was quite the experience.
I didn't know that they would follow humans for that long.
Yeah, when you have something that they want, they will get it. And we're lucky they didn't bite any of us, but we came out unscathed and I kept my moo.
Yeah, that's an epic story.
That's a pretty epic story, and we still think about it and talk about it to this day. Yeah.
I feel like monk seals, when I have seen them in the water, the way they move is so swift and like beautiful. It's almost like they're dancing.
Yeah.
But you're like, there it is. It's behind me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 30 feet away. It's back.
They're the original mermaids, the OGs. Seals and sea lions were mistaken as mermaids.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There's all this ocean folklore that I feel like I've only glimpsed.
Yeah.
Because as much as I would love to be a water woman myself, I have a deep appreciation from the shorelines.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm more of a mountain person.
Yeah, Malka girl.
So being in a sport that is more male dominated, how do you find your place as a woman in this space?
Oh, what a great question. It's such a great question because the transition into it came at a time when I needed to explore my feminine side because I grew up riding mountain biking, downhill biking, snowboarding, and just hucking myself off of mountains with no real coaching. And I dove into surfing in the same way. And as my marriage dissolved, I was faced with a lot of questions of how things worked in my life, and they worked until a certain point until they didn't. And I think I was very much out of balance, and so I went into diving during this time of my life that was very reflective and inward seeking. And yeah, a lot of dudes in spearfishing, and they bring a certain energy to that as well. And so I found myself a little bit influenced by it, but knowing that there's this other part of me that needed to soften and be in the present moment. And when you free dive and you're holding your breath underwater, there's no choice but to be as present as you can be, because if you're not, you die. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting to go spearfishing with men because I can hang with the boys, I can be a dirtbag like the rest of them, which I love. But there's moments where I feel a really strong divine feminine come out, especially when it comes to safety and knowing the interconnectedness of all of our actions in the water can affect our friends and family. And so I joke with them. I was like, you don't want to be the one to traumatize me with your death. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be the one where you're going to make me break the bad news to your wife and your kids. Don't make me do that, right? I kind of playfully say these things to them, but it helps for us to really debrief and understand, hey, we're here for a good time, and no fish is ever worth a human life. And so it's been really interesting to allow myself, one, to be brave enough to show my feminine side, and also soften to allow them to help me. And so it's been really interesting to see those parallels. And along with all of that, I've had some autoimmune issues and symptoms that I've been trying to figure out and navigate. And a big part of that is learning to be present with my body and radically accept how I feel. And so when you free dive, you have to pay attention to your body's signs and signals. You can't push it because it could mean a matter of life and death or traumatizing your friends. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's been a really interesting lesson in observing, okay, today's not a good day. I'm just gonna keep it to floating and take the drops when I can, and I might not be able to catch fish, and that's okay. It's about the journey. It's about why I'm here and calming the nervous system, and not about slaying fish.
I think you're touching on something really important. It's like reading the situation and then being like water with it.
Oh, yeah. Great analogy. Just be like water. as our favorite Bruce Lee says. And it's true. You just have to go with the flow of what's being presented to you and accept it.
This is kind of a silly question, but how long can you hold your breath?
Oh my gosh. It depends on the day, right?
Yeah.
So on the best of days when I don't even think about it, I can do a minute and a half. I'd love to do more, but I could probably be a bit more disciplined and do my carbon tables on land, but I never do. And then there are other days when, my body just won't let me. And that was like yesterday, where I couldn't crack 45 seconds. I felt my legs just like throbbing and demanding oxygen. So I didn't want to push it either. So it really varies.
Mm-hmm. How does it feel to be in that state when you're watching the fish, when you're underwater? What does that feel like in your body for people who may never ever have that experience?
Oh, I mean, when I'm super present, I'm not even thinking about it. So it just feels like I am sitting next to you having this conversation, right? It's just like, oh, hey, this fish is making eye contact with me. I'm going to look over here. This other fish is just swimming in front of my mask. It's peaceful. It's calm. It's just so beautiful. So just like really connected.
Yeah. Do you ever feel fear when it's so quiet, or is there always this like inner sense of alignment within you?
I never feel fear when I'm down there. Even when there's sharks, even when there are scary moray eels, you just kind of tune into this very natural rhythm and knowingness that they're just as scared of you as you are of them. There's just this energetic flow that happens, at least with me. If there's a shark that comes in, you know that you need to be like a shark. Just be like, okay, back off. I'm here too. Spearfishing is it's the most selective way to fish. You can engage with the fish. You can decide, is this the one or not today? And it's kind of like advice. You take what you like and leave the rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
I know that we've also talked about how to be really mindful of the ecosystem itself, and how you really want to only use what is necessary from the resource. So could you talk a little bit about the sustainability side of how you approach spearfishing? Because I think a lot of people can relate, especially in Hawaii. There's this like respect and honor for the natural environment and not just taking.
Yeah, I'm hyper aware of that as a settler here in Hawaii, and also having the privilege to dive other parts of the world and seeing the health of other reefs. When I do come back here, it is pretty fished out. There are days when you don't see fish and the reef is quiet, which is very unsettling, because usually it's just full of pops and cracks, deadly silent, much like the bird songs here in Hawaii over the years. So I think with spearfishing, when you first start, it's exciting and you want to shoot fish, but then you easily forget it's about hunting and scanning the areas, understanding their habitat, understanding their behaviors and where they like to be, what they eat, what other fish hang around them. And so there's a very known stage when you first start spearfishing. You get a little trigger happy and you start shooting whatever. and that's okay as long as you try to eat it. But over time, I've talked with David a lot about this, and lately we just feel like sometimes I feel bad about shooting a fish. It's this beautiful creature. I have a freezer full of fish. Do I really need this one, or am I just here to enjoy today? So it's really interesting to go diving with different people and understanding their philosophies, and I try not to judge, but I do use each person's approach to kind of form my own as well. And there are some days where I just feel like, okay, I just need dinner, and it's expensive to live in Hawaii, and extra protein is always a good thing. So it's important for me to really understand the species that I'm going for. It was overwhelming in the beginning because I'm like, I don't know how to identify any of these. So I think for me, it's been really helpful to have books and study online and understand the role of each fish and what they eat, where they are in the food chain, and understanding like how often do they reproduce and how long does it take for them to fully mature. It's still a learning process. And I have some friends who have a really good practice of, okay, I have a shopping list today.
Oh.
What are my target fish for this dive? And I'm only going to name that and only shoot that. And if I don't see that fish, I'm not shooting anything, which I really enjoy. So there's been some friends who are like, I'm just going for invasives today, like ta'ape, which are delicious. Like a little tricky to shoot. But yeah, I think that's a really good practice.
I love that analogy of you're going grocery shopping, because when I hear stories of old Hawaii and even modern day Hawaii, how the ocean is your icebox. That is where you go shopping. That is the resource, and we must love it and care for it because it also cares for us. The aina, the land which feeds, the kai, the ocean which feeds. That is that reciprocal relationship we have with Mother Nature that you're touching on, that I think is really important to call out, because you recognize that and you see the whole process from like beginning to end, from the life in the ocean to respecting the fish in its environment even while you're hunting it, and then doing your due diligence as a cook in the kitchen to make sure that the fish is respected and it's prepared really well and made with love so that everyone can enjoy that final step. And even tonight before we ate, we thanked the fish.
We did.
And I just feel like that's like this really cool full circle experience of how you are approaching spearfishing, which I think is so grounded in like the Native Hawaiian way of doing things. And I want to thank you for that and like being an example of that within the circles that you operate in, because that's so respectful and so needed in all parts of the world where the land is the resource upon which people feed themselves.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. And I feel like it is because of my background and my own interest in ecology. It has influenced this. I do see a lot of ego that comes to play in spearfishing, and I feel my own ego coming in too, and it's a beast, that one, because it does stoke something in you, right? The warrior, the hunter, the need to dominate. And so back to the whole masculine and feminine energy of kane and wahine. We want to be able to approach everything with the right balance, and making sure that we're fed and you're enjoying yourself, but also preserving these populations for us to feed future generations. So yeah, that means a lot to hear from you. Thanks, Molly.
I mean, you're also teaching this to me, but we don't want Hawaii to be an example of the tragedy of the commons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
There's ways to restore the ecosystem. It's really cool to see competitions like, I don't know if they're called the Roy Roundups.
Yeah.
And like the Ta'ape ones, where all the fisher people go out and they just go hunt that specific species. Those kinds of things are really encouraging. And then on the flip side of it, seeing chefs who are using invasives in their gourmet dishes to build up the palate of the local community to want to eat things like ta'ape and so forth.
It's so interesting. I'm really glad you brought that up about the chefs, because it is, people build up certain species in their minds of what a platinum or an elite fish is and what a junk fish is. And, I admittedly got swept up in that too, right? And for a while I wasn't shooting a lot of quote-unquote junk fish. But once I started learning more about these species and understanding, like, it's all food, right? And so it comes back to acceptance of like, what is the flavor of this fish and how can we work with it? What ingredients will go well with it? So I really love that the chefs are embracing that, and it is like a form of marketing, right? To change the palate and mold people's perceptions of food is food. How can we be creative with this and eat more sustainably because of it? And actually have a lot more fun collaborating on like, new recipes.
So I know before we started dinner tonight, you were referencing this book, and I know that it has become a very special book to you. Could you describe what it's about and why it means so much?
Oh yeah, this book is Hawaiʻi's Reef fish, and it's the food, science, and tradition of all the fish in Hawaii. But the story of the book, how it came to me, is like so precious. My friend Matt, he said to me, Cindy, I went into my favorite store, Honopa'a, which is a fishing supply store in Honolulu. And he's like, I got something for you. You probably already have it and probably use it all the time. But I just thought I'd get you one. And I was like, what is it? What could it be? Is it a whistle? Is it a dive knife? Like, I was thinking very practically. And it took months for him to give it to me because that's just how our friendship is. It takes a while for us to see each other. But finally he comes over and he's like, oh, I have this book for you. And it's Hawaiʻi's Reef fish. And it has all the different names and the Latin names of the fish. It talks about the ecology and the life history of the fish and the fisheries and its like meaning here, and also the Hawaiian culture. And I just broke down because I feel like when he said that to me, he's like, it's so you, Cindy. It captures the essence of who you are and how you view the world. And I just felt so loved and so seen. It was just like the most precious gift that he could have given me. Anyone could have given me. I love you, Matt. Thank you for this book. And I reference it every time I catch a fish.
All the beautiful recipes inside from
across the islands. Like, it's written by 2 biologists who also spearfish, and so they gathered all the facts and data and put it together in photos, and then they crowdsourced these recipes from all the common folk across the islands. And it's just so cool to have this compiled into a very handy spiral bound book.
It's like a biology book plus a cookbook.
Yeah, plus a history and cultural anthropological book.
Fascinating.
So I love dropping these little facts whenever, we come back from a fishing trip, and I just drop into the group thread chat. Did you know that? The fish that we caught today may have been 22 years old.
You're just like Little Miss Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this resource, because if there are other spearfishing resources that you have, that you lean on, I would love to include them in the show notes as well.
Sure. Yeah, I can send them over to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask, I know that like every dude across Hawaii who spearfishes has a fish picture as like a profile picture on Tinder or whatever dating app they use. Do you have one of those pictures?
So being on the apps, I've seen those photos dwindle because people were really ridiculing the fish photo. But to me, I'm like, no, show me your fish. I want to see your fish. And so I debated, and I eventually put one fish photo because it's such a natural thing for people to do. We think only humans do it, but when you think about it, a cat will catch a bird and then bring it to their human and like, look, Mom, look what I got. Look what I did. And in nature, they do that. They actually celebrate a successful hunt. Orcas do that as well. And so I think in the mating world, it's very natural to want to show your conquests.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some of your fish pictures, and it is so impressive. Even when we were in Houston, I saw some of the pictures from when you were in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, these fish are huge. They're like as big as you, because you're not a big person, Cindy.
It wasn't that big. It wasn't that big, but yeah, it is. I'm still, still learning, still, waiting to get the big one.
The forever goal, it's like always something to like reach for.
The reality of it is like, can I actually do it? Am I physically able? And that's why you need to count on your buddies to be there to help you.
Buddy system.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe your perfect day in the water? And for people who might be curious about getting into spearfishing, diving, what is your gear? What are you thinking through? How are you getting in that mindset?
Oh, wow. I love this. That's such a big part of it, too, is the planning and preparing. And that's one nuance that I've only talked about a few times with some friends, because you just get into the mode of, okay, here's my checklist. I have my wetsuit, mask, snorkel, fins, weights. You develop these systems that you have. Hopefully, not everyone has them, right? But I'm a very type A systems kind of gal. So running through the equipment, making sure you have the gear, everything is safe. For me, it's really important to be well hydrated and having delicious snacks. So I think I'm known to be the one to bring the goodies.
Wait, what are you bringing with you?
I like really hydrating fruits. So, mandarin oranges, grapes, things that are easy with your hands. And then, of course, some guilty pleasures like goldfish crackers or Doritos, like something salty. Coconut waters, usually low added sugar beverages and snacks, because sugar can actually increase phlegm production, and so that affects your breath holds as well. But usually light carbs.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then as you're like planning through, you get to the harbor, and then what happens next? What's like your perfect day?
So the perfect day is that everyone's on time. We all are on the same group thread, and we're sharing locations, and we're all hyping each other up. Not too much, because you want to keep your heart rate low. And then everything with the boat is ready to go. We've got our ice, we've got the radio, we've got all our food and gear. There's nothing going wrong with the boat, but there always is. And then we just take off, and it's like a windless, currentless day, and it's sunny blue skies, and there's maybe a dolphin or two on the way, and there's plenty of fish, and everyone's in good spirits. Usually the conditions kind of help with that. There's definitely moments where we've had like really sport mode, windy, choppy days, and we're like, why are we doing this? But a perfect day would be that we all end up with a fish each, and then we drive home in the sunset, and there's music flowing, and we're all hydrated. Happy to meet our friends on the pier.
And then do you eat the fish that night, or is that like a next day kind of thing?
Oh, that's a really good question. Usually we're way too tired to cook.
Oh, yeah.
So, when we go, it's for hours at a time. And not always, but usually when we plan to go, we have snacks on board, and we come in to break, hydrate, and then go again, or maybe check out another spot. Depends on the boat. Yeah, we're usually smashed by the end of the day, right? A lot of sun, a lot of exposure to the elements. When you catch a fish, we put it on ice, lots of ice. And usually fish that day the flesh is really mushy. So it's usually better to actually wait a few days, like 1 or 2, for the flesh to firm up, especially for sashimi. I think that's a misconception that a lot of people eat like sashimi right off the boat, which is fine. It's very fresh tasting, but the texture is not as firm as you're used to. So a couple of days on ice is ideal. And then because we're so tired, we go home, eat something else, grab a burger, burrito, and crash out, and we leave the fish on ice. And then the next day is usually when we cook, or a couple of days from when you first caught it. That's when the fish flavors actually develop a bit more and the texture firms up. That's your answer. Yeah, I think we're too tired to cook at the end of the day. Ideally, we wait a day or two. And that way we can plan a bit better. Like, okay, what kind of fish do we get? What groceries do we need? What friends need to come over?
The whole experience.
The whole experience.
As we've been talking, is there anything else that you want to share about your joy, your love of spearfishing, an idea that maybe came up that we didn't touch on?
I think that the level of gratitude I feel, just the ability to do this. Being able-bodied on most days, having friends who are also equally as stoked and excited and organized to come together, and just being in awe of the land that we're in and the waters. It's just so beautiful here, and it's such a humbling experience when you're just in the awe of nature and it's looking right back at you, being able to experience all these different personalities and philosophies on fish, and seeing how people operate too under stress and when they're tired and hungry and thirsty.
Yeah.
Every little detail hits me pretty hard.
I really appreciate you giving not just me, but other people a glimpse into what lights you up, because I see you every single day and I don't know some of these details about what you love and how it feeds you, not just physically feeding you, but like spiritually feeding you. Cindy, this is really awesome.
Well, thank you so much for asking me about this. I love talking about it. I'm so emotional right now and so grateful that I get to experience this and share it with you. I really appreciate you asking.
Thank you for being willing to go to these spaces within yourself too, because, you know, you can also look back on this conversation and be like, that was a snapshot in time of where I was in 2025. And having been a few years out of discovering this passion of yours, you know, and then in 10 years you can look back on this and be like, oh my gosh, like I've been spearfishing for over a decade now, and all the new things that you will have experienced by that point is pretty cool.
Thank you, Molly. This is such a gift. What a time capsule. I really appreciate you.
You're gonna make me cry too. I guess in some ways this is like the heartbeat narratives. I don't know if I really say that in other conversations, but really getting to the core of it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't always like get right to the heart of it, and I feel like the way you articulate things got there.
Wow,
so
that means a lot coming from you. You've interviewed a lot of people, so that's really nice. Thank you.
Mahalo everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this peek into the underwater world of my dear friend Cindy. We will catch you on the next episode. Aloha.
Aloha.